This amateur radio roundtable is brought to you in part by ICOM America. Okay, good evening to everybody out there. Looks like my audio's a little low. Let me see if I can crank it up just a little bit here. Oh, man, I'm dealing with some feedback tonight. Don't know why. We'll see how that works right there. Good evening, everybody out there. We're having a little trouble getting our audio to WBCQ shortwave station up in Monticello, Maine tonight. The internet connection with them up there is not functioning, so they're working on it, and we'll see if we can't get it going there during the show. Give me a little bit more audio there. Okay. So let's see. First of all, welcome to all our guests tonight to Amateur Radio Roundtable. I'm Tom Medlin, W5KUB. And I think we've got a good show lined up for you tonight. We've got some real special people on here tonight. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you have not joined our, first of all, if you are listening on shortwave, would love to hear from you. Send us an email to tom@w5kub.com. Send us a signal report. And for all you guys in the chat room and watching on the internet there, somewhere up here there's a menu. Click on Facebook. Join our Facebook group. We've got about a little over 6,000 people in our Facebook group now that follow the show regularly, and it's a good place just to get information, know who's coming on the show, know where we're going to be webcasting next, and also you can just post pictures in there. Post your shack pictures in there. Katie usually does shack pictures, and when we get a bunch, we'll do that. Also on our Facebook group, post your questions to Raleigh Hollingsworth, retired special counsel to the FCC. Raleigh is here tonight to answer questions that you might have, and maybe just to give us a little insight to how he thinks things are going. So you post that on our Facebook group too if you can. Hey, just a quick announcement. I don't know if you guys saw or not, but the Bouvet Islands, 3Y0Z, they had to cancel. They were right about at the island, and the weather was so bad they had to cancel. They decided it was too dangerous, and they're turning back. And in fact, the captain of the ship wanted to turn back. An additional problem, they were having engine trouble down there, and that's not a good place to be in engine trouble and have bad weather. So that de-expedition is not going to happen right now. They're talking about rescheduling it. Hey, toward the end of the show tonight, if we have time, I've got a clip that I recorded live a couple weeks ago with the Somalia de-expedition. My friend Adrian goes off and does these 1- and 2-man de-expeditions. So that's going to be an interesting clip if you're around to see it. Somalia is a really dangerous place. Probably most of you know that. Let's see. So I tell you what, let's say hello to our remote people tonight, and see what they're doing here. So I'm going to try to bring in Riley and Martin. Let's see if I click the right button. There we go. Hey, Riley, how you doing?
Good, Tom. How are you?
Doing great. Did we lose Martin? Oh, there he is. Martin's back. So hey, Riley, you're up what, in Pennsylvania?
Yes, I'm in Gettysburg.
Yeah. How's the weather up here? You got a lot of snow?
No, just about an inch of snow on the ground, a little bit of ice. We're supposed to get some slush and mist tomorrow, but we've had a few little snows, but nothing dramatic. I haven't even fired up the snowblower yet, but just nasty, just waiting for spring.
Okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do tonight, guys. I'm going to put headphones on, so y'all just stand by a second. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of feedback problems here tonight, so just wanted to make sure that everything runs smoothly on the show, and because of that, hey, we're wearing headphones tonight, guys. How does this make me look? Normally I don't wear headphones, but you know.
Look like a ham operator.
Do I look like a ham operator? Great. All right, man. First time in 50-something years I look like one. Yeah. Oh man. Well, I do.
Tom,
go ahead.
I got headphones on too.
Do you? Okay, Martin. Let's see what you got on there. Let me see your headphones, Martin. Oh man. Oh, where'd he go, Martin? We lost Martin again. Well, maybe he'll dial back in here. Well.
He can't get away this early in the show.
Yeah, I know it. I mean, this is Let me see if I can call Martin. Well, it says he's still on. Martin, are you there? Hello, Martin. Well, I'm going to do that and see what happens. Okay. Well, let's figure out. Maybe Martin will call us. Maybe Martin will call us in a few minutes. This is going with the show here, and hopefully Martin will. There he is. You there, Martin?
I'm here. Can you see me?
Now I can. Yep, got you right there, man.
Okay, I was just saying, these are my earphones right here.
Well,
they're Bluetooth, they're AirPods.
Well, we just every time he touches those earphones, we lose him. Oh man. Okay. All right. Well, he'll be back. All right. So Raleigh, let's move on and let's talk a little about FCC now. We're trying to stir up our audience out there and get some questions sent in to us where you can answer those questions. You're the man with all the answers to those things. I don't think you want to talk about any ongoing active cases right now. That might be an issue, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't usually discuss those. There are several of those ongoing, and some of them have been ongoing for quite a while, but they're progressing.
Okay, very good. And I know that a lot of these guys, these FCC cases, sometimes they can go a long time, and a lot of people feel like maybe the FCC is not working on it, but they're really working on it, aren't they, in the background? It just takes time, doesn't it?
They are. It takes time, and they build a good case, and it just takes time to do it, and sooner or later they get there. It's just a slow process.
All right. Well, that'll be great. So tonight, basically, I think we got a number of questions, but they all seem like they're around the same subject, probably about language, I think.
Yeah,
you want to talk about that?
Most we got this week was about language and about the 7200 issue. Years and years ago, there was the same problem on 14313, and then there was a problem like that on 75 meters. But the rules say that you cannot transmit obscene or indecent words or language. And beyond that, you just have to do your own research and look at the commission cases and how that's interpreted. And of course, after 10 p.m., there's a safe harbor anyway. But, most people don't have to ask what that is, because most people, particularly when it comes to radio, have common sense. And you can't legislate common sense. And, just because you have a right to do something or say something doesn't mean it's right to do that or say it in every circumstance. I mean, you could, if you go to church, you could, at the end of the sermon, tell the minister, well, that was a damn good sermon, but you just don't do it. Most people have sense enough not to do that. And
yeah, and Ronnie, when you study for and you take your test, there's certain rules that you're supposed to understand and sign off on, right, when you get that license.
But underlying all of the rules is common sense. We have a cross-section of society, and all of society in this era is more crude. They're more obscene. You can notice it in shopping centers or at the beach or wherever. It's just the way society is at this particular point in time. People are rude. They're boisterous. They assume an offense when no offense was intended. And the language is different, whether they're teenagers or not. Now, I grew up in a Navy family, and so when I got to first grade, about 80% of my vocabulary I couldn't use, getting in a lot of trouble. So it's just a lot of Navy mouths out there, and it's just a sign of the times. And usually when you have a case of extreme obscenity and things like you hear on 7200, usually there are other violations in there too. And so you don't see the commission very often pursuing just a language case. But, we're a cross-section of society. We have everybody. We have plumbers and doctors, electricians, and all kinds of people. We even have, we're so unfortunate, we even have lawyers on our frequency. And that's going to happen. And we're going to have our percentage of people that are several French fries short of a Happy Meal, just like any other profession or avocation has. And the best thing to do is just ignore them. They're dying off, I've noticed. A lot of the troublesome cases, they're bitter old people anyway, and they're just dying off. And that's okay. But you just have to ignore it. And, I've said this before, but have a 1960 Allied radio catalog upstairs, which was the year I got licensed, so I've always kept that catalog. And looking through all that equipment, every single piece of equipment, receiver in there and transmitter, has one big knob. And all the transceivers today that you see, there's one big knob. So the basic thing you can do is just tune away from them. And if you're in a net, formal or informal, and you hear that, just come on and sign out of the net. I've heard some people doing that today on 75 meters. Just because all they want is an audience. And people like that, you're never going to persuade them what they're doing wrong because they just don't see it. You'll never persuade them that they're an embarrassment worldwide to amateur radio. So the best thing you can do is just ignore them and go somewhere else, and don't give them an audience. And especially don't come back and debate with them, because they know all the answers. But the reason they know all the answers is that they haven't thought of all the questions. And so you'll never get anywhere arguing with them. The best thing you can do is just ignore them.
Well, our viewer group's been getting together on 40 meters some afternoons, talking and having a good time on there. And we'll get a lot of people that come over on the frequency and say, "Hey guys, we've got a net that's going to start up here in 20 minutes on this frequency, and we've been doing it for 40 years. What do you think about that?"
Well, a net has no specific right to a specific frequency, but the reason that it works is most people have common sense enough to know that the net has to have a predictable frequency to operate on. And I hear it every week. I'll hear people say, "Well, South Carolina single sideband net's coming on in a few minutes, so we'll go ahead and sign off," and they just go to another frequency. So nets work because they are predictable. And if they never knew what frequency they were going to be on, they don't work. And although you don't have to do it, most people just cut nets a break. It's sort of like leaving an athletic event or a concert. You could go barreling out of there, and you'd probably get home first. But what most people do is stop and let the car in front of them out, and then they go on, and the car behind them lets somebody out, and they go on, and everybody works together, so everybody gets home earlier. It's the same thing on the amateur radio frequencies. The nets have to have a predictable frequency. Some of the nets, I will say, are not really nets. They're more like rag tube groups. But most people will defer to a net even though you don't have to do it. And that's why it works.
Uh-huh. Let's see. I think Martin, we'll get Martin back on here in a minute. He keeps kind of calling. Well, and we usually try to just move off frequency and let those guys have it. Nothing that we should get into a fight for or get into a fight over. And, we like to be the nice guys.
I've heard a few nets come on, very few of them. And the net control would come on and say, "Well, we're ready to start the net if the idiots don't bother us tonight." Well, that's the height of stupidity right there, because you've just drawn a lot of interference. You're just setting yourself up. So sometimes there's blame on both sides, but the average net on any given day usually can get on with no problems, and the average operator usually cheerfully defers to the net and just moves to another frequency.
Yeah. Hey, Raleigh, there's a question here. It just came in a chat room. Do you think they will keep the advanced class until they all die off, or grandfather them into extra?
I don't know what they're going to do. The league is looking at some ideas to try to open amateur radio up a little bit more to young people, which we severely need. Technicians are coming in, but they often don't stick with the hobby. And so there may be some licensing rearrangement. I don't know. Most federal agencies now are in the mode that they're not going to do anything they don't absolutely have to do. So I don't know what will happen to the advanced class. I have an advanced class. A lot of people will keep the advanced class because it indicates that they had to pass a code test. I've talked to a surprising number of people who could take the extra, but they say they're not going to do it. They're going to keep the advanced because it has some status in their mind. So I have no idea whether it would ever be folded into the extra class license or whatever.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect, but you're right. They had to have the code. Now, back in the 60s when I was a novice, the novice license was good 1 year, and it was non-renewable. If you didn't upgrade, within that 1 year, your license goes away. But I understand right now that I don't know what year they did it, but there are novices out there today, and their license is unlimited, right?
I saw that, and I know there was a time, too, where to get a renewal, you had to certify that you had so many hours or contacts.
Right.
I don't remember what year that was. I think it was in the early 70s, wasn't it?
Well, I think what it was, that was a long time ago. I think it had to say that you have operated within a certain amount of time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure there was a time, a number of contacts, but it was, you had to certify that you had been on the air.
Specific period.
Yeah.
Have been it.
So that's interesting. And another thing I've noticed, and when I look up the statistics, there are a lot more extra class out there than any other class, and that surprised me.
Yeah, it is a surprising statistic because it's not an easy exam, and I hope that there are ways to memorize these things today, and I hope that most people aren't doing that. But with flashcards and other things, you could do that. But I guess even if you're memorizing, something would spill over into the brain and you learn something.
Oh, yeah. Martin, are you there? Hello, Martin. We'll keep trying. We'll get Martin in here in a minute. So, there's a lot more extras on out there than there are generals right now. Let's see, we had general. There are. Now they're not. You don't. I've lost track. They don't test for advanced anymore, do they? They're just grandfathered out there.
Yes, we're just hanging around.
Okay, well that's interesting. So Raleigh, do you operate very much? We need to get you on when we get some of our groups together on 40 meters. Are you available in the afternoons?
Yeah, I get on quite a bit actually. I jump bands. I check out all the bands from 15 on down to 75. I don't get on an 80. I don't get on 160. But today, for example, I was on 17 for a while, and 20 was pretty good. So I got on 20 for an hour or so. A couple hours a day I usually am able to get on. And I like to support nets, so I'll usually check into one of the evening nets, either local or down in the Carolinas, and just various informal nets. I usually check in to support those.
Well, that's good. I'll start texting you when we do get a group together. I'll text you, and if you're available, join us, and if you're not, just disregard the text. How's that sound?
That's good. And I know the band opened up today on 20 meters a little bit. I worked in Liberia and a place called Guinea-Bissau or something I'd never heard of, a country on the African coast, Western African coast. I'd never worked them before. So that was fun. That was all on CW.
Okay, cool.
I just like to play around and tune around the bands, and mostly I don't use the DXscape. I just like to tune around and see what I find.
All right, and do you operate mostly CW?
Probably 75% CW.
Okay. All right. Well, I can still do CW. I like CW. Being extra, that's when I had to do the 20 words per minute. I don't think I can do 20 today, but I think I could, do fair around 13 to 15 probably.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, even though the code is not required now, there are a lot of people out there that are still interested in CW, and they're studying CW.
When they dropped the requirement, I'm told, I noticed it myself, and I'm told this is still the case, that the interest in CW actually increased.
Is that right? Wow.
I know as of several years ago, the people that make these keys and the keyers, you see them at all the Hamfests, they were very happy. They said business was better than ever. So it could be like what happened to a good book when you're in high school. It seemed to ruin it if they put it on the required reading list. If you don't have to do it, sometimes it makes it more attractive to get interested in it because you can do it at your own pace.
Oh, yeah. So, Raleigh, what kind of antennas you got up there? I think I saw a picture on QRZ. You got a tower and some beams up?
Well, I got, in 1963, I got from Allied Radio, I got a TA-33, a Mosley TA-33 beam, 100 feet of coax, and an AR-22 rotor for $125.
Wow.
I still have that beam up. Now it's been rebuilt a couple of times, and I have the 12 and 17 meter conversion kit on it. But it's up on a beacon tower from an old airport down in the Carolinas. They were taking it down, and they were going to junk it. And the fellow that taught me the code and some friends of his who were in their late 70s, early 80s at the time, saw it being taken down. And they went up and asked if they could have it. And the company taking it down said, we can't give it to you, but you can get it by weight. And Joe W4WZ said, what do you mean by weight? And they said, wait till we leave, and you can come back and get it tonight. So that's exactly what they did. And I went down in a U-Haul with a U-Haul trailer, brought it up and built. And it's a 35-foot beacon tower, and I have a 10-foot mast on it with the TA-33, and that's been up for 15 years. And coming down or across from that, I have a 40-meter dipole and a 75 and 80-meter dipole. And they could be better, I guess, but I have about a 90% hit rate on DX stations that I hear, and it just works. We've had a lot of bad weather in the last couple of years, and it's always up there. It's always working. And so several summers now, I've been going to take it down and rebuild it, but the thing just works. And so I know there are better antennas, but I'm kind of attached to it now because I've had it so long, and it survived the fringe of Hurricane Hugo down in South Carolina. So as long as it's going to work, I'll just keep it up. So I have those 3 antennas and, of course, a little 2-meter antenna for the local repeater.
Okay, well, I've got I gave it away this year, a classic 33 Mosley, very similar to what you have there, the TA-33, and it was a good beam. I'm all wire antennas now.
This tower is a four-legged freestanding tower. It has a ladder going up the side, and when you get to the top, you see them at airports all the time. When you get to the top, you have a little gantry. You can flip up the grading of that, get up in there and close it, and you got safety rails around, and you can stand up there and work all day if you want to. It's a very easy tower to get to the antenna on.
Okay, I'm answering a guest here. We've got a guest that's saying he's seeing you, but, well, I might have answered. He said he's seeing you, but he's hearing music, so I don't know what's going on. You don't sound like you're making music right now, so.
Music here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's wrong there. I thought maybe, well, the nice thing about YouTube, Raleigh, is there's a little slider on the bottom of the player. And during our show here, if you miss anything, you can actually grab that slider and you can move it back upwards to 30 minutes and watch what's already passed. And then you can move the slider back up and catch up with the show. So I thought maybe I think maybe he has somehow got his YouTube up, and he's not current on the show, so that's what's happening. Sorry about that interruption there. Okay. I know you've got to get out of here tonight. You've got things to do. And we really appreciate you coming on, Raleigh. And I'll be advertising in our group here and on our show. Everybody, please send your questions to us. You can send them to Tom at W5KUB, or the better thing is to do is just post them in our Facebook group. And please join our Facebook group. It's W5KUB. And you can post your questions in there, and we'll get them to Raleigh. And when we get enough questions, we'll have Raleigh on here to answer them. So, Raleigh, are you going anywhere here in the near future? Any Hamfest or anything?
There's some local ones around here that I'm going to be going to, but they'll start. More of them are coming up now that the weather's getting better. So I like to go to the local ones and some of the local club meetings. But text me when you guys are on your net or on the air.
Yeah, we'll do that. Surely do that. All right, Raleigh, thank you so much for coming on with us. Have a nice night, and we're going to get you some more questions. And next time, tell us a little story about some of your experiences, okay?
All right, that's the deal. I'll see you, Martin, and I'll see you, Tom. Thank you for having me.
All right. Sammy 3, and thanks so much, Raleigh.
We'll see you.
All right, so let me see if I can get Martin on here. Oh, let's see. I don't know what happened to Martin a while ago. We're going to try it again. Hello. Hey, Martin.
All right. 73, and thanks so much, Raleigh.
See you.
Martin, can you hear me?
All right,
Well,
so let me see if I can get Martin on here.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Martin, you need to turn the audio down on the show. You need to just stop the player or just mute the audio on the show, and we'll work with audio here on our Skype connection. Also, I don't see your picture. Is your camera turned on?
Well, I don't see a place where to turn it on.
Okay.
I see you full screen.
Okay.
Let me look up here. I don't see anywhere to turn the camera on.
All right, let's just see what happens here. I don't know if are you on a tablet or your PC at the office?
I'm on my iPad.
Okay. I don't know if that's an app or not. Sometimes that app looks a lot different.
Put my earphones on, see if it works.
Okay. All right, we're trying to.
Can you hear me?
I can. I hear.
Here we go.
I hear you.
Turn it on.
I hear you fine.
Okay.
I hear you good. There you go. We got it working. All right.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
Got it working. Okay. You know, somebody said something about. Somebody said something about maybe on your earbuds there might be a disconnect button or something. You know how on the phones, the Bluetooth, you can press a button and it disconnects. But you're doing good now, Martin. We're seeing you.
Okay.
Oh, we're seeing you there, and sorry we couldn't hook you back up there with Raleigh. I guess you tuned in and heard part of Raleigh there, didn't you?
Oh, I did. I tuned in on my iPhone and watch what Raleigh was saying, and at the same time was watching Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmerman at the same time.
Oh, you're a multitasking person there, Martin. Well, I'm glad you didn't run away and you stuck with us. Yeah.
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah. So, Martin, there's a comment in the chat room. Ken, W5MEU. I've been talking to him every day on 40 meters, and he praises your customer service there at MFJ, and he named the names, and he is really happy with the service that you guys give him.
Well, Ken, thank you very much. That's very good to hear, and we don't hear that enough, but we have got some people that are really good, and they really want to make sure that our supporters and customers are just well taken care of. That's how we are down here in the South. We just like to take care of people.
Well, and Martin, usually the calls and the comments you get are usually the bad comments, right? I mean, people that have good experiences just don't talk a lot about it. But this is good that Ken's bringing that up. That's good.
Yeah, it is good. I appreciate it.
Well, hey, Martin, tonight, I've got a couple things I want to talk to you about. Tonight, let's talk about, you've got a little device that you guys have put together to make these inexpensive SDR dongles work on your radio as a pan adapter without an IF output. I mean, that's just kind of neat the way you're doing it. So I want to talk about that. I want to learn a little bit more about what you can do with your antenna analyzer. We'll talk a little about the extended double zip that I put up, and we're going to talk a little about that, and just a bunch of things. Well, hey, here's a question. I mean, relay it to you right now while I'm seeing it. NE5U says, "Hi, Martin. Have you guys ever thought about making a 2-element beam out of your 17-foot stainless steel whips? It'll droop a little, but it's light enough for man portable." I guess he's wanting you to take your steel whips and make a beam out of it.
Well, that's an interesting concept. We can sure look at that. We can make it really portable, so it's on a tripod and just set it up wherever you want to. I have done that, not with the whip, but with some aluminum tubing on the my backyard deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's spaced like 30 feet apart, and I've just have 3 or 4 pieces of wire as a ground plane, and I phased them, and I can tell the difference between when I switch it in either direction. And I mean, that can be done easily, and you don't have to have an extensive ground to do that. That's a really good idea. I will sure take a look at that.
Well, that might be a new model that comes out, right? Yeah. Guys, one of the things about Martin is you bring up these ideas like that. Martin always listens, and he writes those ideas down. And if it can be done, he'll try to do it there.
Well, it's about most engineers, they'll design something and then they want to give everybody what they design and what they want. But the problem is that the only people that want it is him. What we try to do is find out what people really want, and we want to give it to them.
Yeah. And a lot of ideas from Hams.
Tons of them. I mean, these are the things they want.
I tell you, Martin, a lot of technology, and I can't name it here, but a lot of technology came from people like ham radio operators. I think they probably even had something to do with television back in the early days, and surely for radio and digital data and packet and repeaters and cell phones, all that stuff, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, ham radio pioneered all kind of stuff. They pioneered the moon bounce. They were the first people that did that. There was a lot of stuff that came out of the ham radio operators. Some of them didn't make much sense at the time to the real world, but eventually they figured out, man, that was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, one of the things, it's just a little before mine your time, but you probably remember the movie star, the lady back in the 40s. Was it Lamar? What was her?
Yeah.
Was it Hetty?
Yeah.
I was trying to say Hetty
Yeah.
Lamar. I'm not sure if that's right, but
Yeah.
she was an actress, but she invented the sped spectrum. She came up with the spread spectrum for the war people to use, and that's basically where our cell phones use now. This was Hedy Lamarr, an actress, 1940s, and look at that, man. I mean, do you know if she had any electronic training, or was she just a genius?
Well, I don't know, but she was oriented toward that way. What she was trying to do was to, we had torpedoes back then, and our enemy, I forgot who it was, the Germans or the Japanese, were interfering with the signals because we were trying to guide those with a single frequency. So she came with the idea of frequency hopping. Just keep changing the frequency, and they couldn't
jam it. Yeah,
the frequency of it. I mean, she was a smart lady.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hedy Lamarr.
Well, hey, Martin, let's talk. Let's jump into the subject. I'm really interested in. I've got one of these little SDR Play solid state SDR receivers, and let's talk about using a solid state receiver dongle as a pan adapter. And I know you guys have studied this and looked at it, and you come out with a little box that makes it possible. Tell us about that and how it works.
Okay. Well, let's first talk about what we're talking about. The SDR dongle is a little thing that kind of looks like a memory stick that you plug into the USB port. Now they sell from $10 to $20 for a basic SDR dongle, and they were first developed for Europe for the purpose of receiving television. And there was some guy that I shouldn't know who it is, but what his name was, those TV dongles, and adapted it where it could receive radio receiver signals from about 25 megahertz to 1200, 1300 megahertz, very wide band.
Yeah, now those are basic. I mean, they're not hardware. So, they're not hardware modified, but it's new software, right? The software makes them do that.
Oh yeah. I mean, first the hardware, but then there came lots of software, and the most popular one is called SDR Sharp. It's like a SDR with a hashtag symbol on it, but that's the most popular one. Just Google SDR Sharp. But for $10 to $20, you can pick up 50 to 12, 1300 megahertz, very broad banded. And for about $50 now on eBay, you can find some of those that have an up converter that will up convert from very low frequency up into the 25 to 1200 megahertz range. Now, a lot of these will up convert to 100 megahertz. So if you will tune to 100.7 megahertz, you're really tuning to 7 megahertz. So it can cover the HF spectrum. And some of those you can buy for about $50 or $60. And then the more sophisticated one, for example, the SDR Play, for $100, you can get bandpass filters and lots of stuff in it. And then they go up to $200 and $300, and then it can go up really, really high from there. but for $10 to $20, and if you want one with a built-in up converter, you can get one for about $50, $60. I brought one home to show. I don't know if you can see
Yeah,
this, but
I see that now, Martin. Now, some of they also now that's got the internal up converter built into it. Some of them
that's
you can,
right.
yeah. I think on some of them,
One of them is 25 to 12, 1300 megahertz, and the other input, these are SMA connectors that will cover VLF up to about 25, 30 megahertz. It converts it up to 100 megahertz. This one, so I bought this off of eBay for about $50, $60. Already got the up converter built in. But you can buy these $10 and $20 and build your own up converter or buy one that would plug into this.
right? And that's what I'm saying. If you don't get it with the up converter built in it, you can get an external up converter and just hook it on there, and it'll work fine. So I would
But
think,
let
go
me
ahead.
mention one other thing too. If you look right here at the back, there is a place where you can plug a USB cable, and that USB cable, the other end of it plugs into your computer, and that's where you download a program like SDR Sharp, where you can pick up all those frequencies and listen to it on your computer.
All right. So this is real interesting here. You know, a lot of people that have rigs with an IF output.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Are you hearing me okay? Are you hearing
I can
me?
hear you now.
Okay, it chopped just a little bit. So a lot of people that have rigs with an IF output on them are buying those and connecting to the IF output and making panadapters. But a lot of rigs don't have IF outputs on them. So like I've got Kenwood, Yaesu, and ICOM here, and none of mine have IF outputs on them. So how do you hook this up where you can kind of use it as a pan adapter on the HF bands while you're transmitting and receiving?
Yeah. Well, let's first tell our listeners and viewers what we're talking about when we say panadapters. You know, that's a word that us guys in hams for a long time know what that means. A panadapter, what it does is to let you look at a whole wide range of frequencies. And in the old days, there were oscilloscope light products. It had a cathode ray tube like the old style TV set that would allow you to look at a wide area within your IF passband to see what signals were there. What a pan adapter does is to let you look at well, in this case, almost the entire band and they're watching. You can see all the signals, and you can tell what they are. You can tell if they're sideband signals or CW signals or radio teletype signals or digital signals. Mm-hmm. And if you use an SDR dongle with an up converter where you can see the HF spectrum, you can not just watch the band that you're on, but you can, let's say you're operating 40 meters and you're monitoring or want to monitor 20 meters from some rare DX that you hope will appear that night. Well, you can use your SDR dongle with the up converter or some that are designed for the HF bands to look on 20 meters, or if you can even look on 2 meters or 6 meters or 440. And if you have a receiver splitter, you can take one antenna and split it and monitor multiple bands at one time And we're coming out with a splitter that will allow you to take these $10, $20 dongles and watch and display on separate computers all these bands at the same time. So if you see something that you want to work, you can tune your transceiver to those bands and that frequency and just work those hams that you want to work. But what we're talking about right now is to take an SDR dongle, let's say for the HF band that you're working on. Let's say you're on 40 meters and you're talking to somebody, and then you switch over to, well, when you're receiving and listening to him, you can have one of these SDR dongles that can receive HF. And if you have some way to connect it to the antenna, and then you can, on your computer, you take the dongle and you plug it into a USB port and run one of those free programs, and you can see the entire 40-meter band, and you can monitor what's going on over the entire band. Well, you need to have some way to, when you go into receive, you connect your SDR dongle antenna input to the receive antenna. And when you transmit, you need to switch the SDR dongle out from the transmit pad and then switch it to ground so you don't burn up your SDR dongle. So we have a product, the 1708 SDR, which automatically does that. When you start to transmit, it will switch your SDR dongle off of that antenna and connect it to ground to protect it. But as soon as you go into receive, our little box will connect your SDR dongle to the antenna, so you can see the entire band, but at the same time, as you're listening on your transceiver to your QSO, all of that's happening at the same time.
Well, that's kind of cool that you can run the SDR dongle and your receiver at the same time. So you got this little box that connects both the receivers up to the same antenna, and when you go to transmit, it just quickly and automatically protects the SDR receiver. And that's great, because you don't want to mess up a $100 or $200 SDR receiver.
Oh yeah, back in the old days, just like these we're talking about when we first started. In the old days, you had to have an IF output, intermediate frequency output, where you could convert a special panadapter receiver with a cathode ray tube, and not a lot of rigs had that, and that was a very expensive thing. Now, all you need is a $10, $20 SDR dongle, or one that has a built-in up converter, and you can have a panadapter to monitor the entire band that you're operating on. And if you want to monitor some other band, you can do that too.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat room. What was the model number of that little switch that you guys have built?
The MFJ 1708 SDR. The MFJ 1708 SDR.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, it has a push to talk. It takes an output from your transceiver, push to talk, but in case that doesn't work fast enough, it also has an RF sense. So as soon as you transmit, it will switch it out. That's a secondary protection circuit for your SDR dongle.
Well, that's yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, the SDR dongle is pretty incredible. what it does is as soon as you connect an antenna to it, the signal from the antenna gets digitized. Everything from that point comes digital processing. I mean, I'm talking about something that looks like a little SBA, SDR. Wait a minute. I'm talking about something that looks like a little memory stick that you plug into your USB port.
Right.
I mean, that's a complete receiver.
Yeah, they're asking on the chat room. Are you guys already have this in production and selling the box?
Oh yeah. What happened was there's a company called SDR Play, and I think they contacted us and said there's a need for it. And so we took one of our products and modified it and made it work the way they wanted it to work. And in the first day, we sold 50 of those. And all we did was mention it on Facebook. So there's lots and lots of interest. And the new model that's coming out now has a splitter that's built into it. So when you connect the antenna to it, it has a magic T splitter that will connect the antenna to your transceiver you're using to receive on, and to the SDR.
Well, that's a neat little product there, and a lot of people, I always wanted a radio that had a waterfall on it, a little spectrum analyzer waterfall, and I had radios like the TS2000 and other radios, TS7 570 that don't have that waterfall on there, and I always kind of wanted one. And since then, I've got me a couple radios. I got me a new ICOM 7300 and I've got a Yaesu 991A with the waterfall spectrum analyzer. But for those people that don't have a waterfall on their radio, they can add, like you say, one of these little very inexpensive dongles on there. Get this little box that you guys have built that will protect it. It hooks it to the same antenna, and they can see the spectrum right there as they're talking.
Well, let's talk about what water and what they can see on that software program. First of all, they see a display that looks like a spectrum analyzer, and what that means is you see these blips of signals recognized from the way they look as being CW or digital, or and you can tell what frequency that they're on, and you can get some pretty good idea of how strong they are, the signal strength. And the waterfall display right under that will give you a history. As time goes on, you can see what's going on, when they start and when they stop. And, these are programs that you can download and it doesn't cost you anything. I mean, this is pretty incredible time now.
Yeah, just a few years ago, you wouldn't have that. Flex came out with their SDR transceiver and looked really nice, and then the other companies started coming out with a connection where you could put a big screen monitor on there and look at the spectrum scope that's built in. But it's kind of cool, and I didn't have one for many years, but I use now the spectrum scope there. When I'm tuning signals, I watch the scope down here and I'll tune down, and I know if I'm on lower sideband or upper sideband, which side of the little peak there to be on. And it's just this is very interesting to be able to look at the signals. And like you mentioned, it's really interesting to see the powerful signals, how big they are compared to some of the little signals. So it tells you a lot of information.
Oh yeah, you can see how wide their signals are, and if they're splattering, and You can see if they're radio teletype. You see both signals on radio teletype, and you can see if they're digital, and you can see if they're upper sideband or lower sideband, and you can see if they're CW. You can actually copy visually just by looking at the screen what they're sending on CW. I mean,
You can. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, this. Ham radio has come so far from the way that we used to operate as a novice, where we had a transmitter and a receiver, and we had a telegraph key that you had to push down to make a dot and wait to make a space and push down for a little 3 times longer than a dot to make a dash. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and another thing, there's some, and I've been seeing a lot of people talk about this lately. I forget what frequency on 40 meters, but there's probably 15 or 20 KCs on 40 meters that has just a noise spectrum that's spewing noise on there. And I'm being told it's coming from Africa now. I don't know. I guess people have tried to pinpoint where it's coming from, but you can see that noise and things like that. You can look at that spectrum scope, and you can see all the clear signals. And then, at 71, 25 to 35, you can see a big bump in there, and you can see it's just noise. So it tells you so much. So, hey, I think this is great. What you guys have done to help connect that SDR dongle to ham radio here.
Yeah, let me mention a couple other things. These SDR receivers are very broadband, and things like FM band and TV band and broadcast band can overload the receiver. So we're going to bring out pre-selectors that will filter out all these interfering signals. And also the sensitivity of these SDR dongles might not be the greatest on HF shortwave, bringing out preamplifiers for that. And also, since these things are so wide band, $10 ones will cover 25 to 1300 megahertz. And there's all kind of stuff in those frequency ranges. And we have antennas like the discone antennas that can pick up all of those frequencies at the same time. So we're going to bring out a device that you can connect your receiver in. I mean, your antenna, like the discone wideband antenna, into it, and then connect several of these SDR dongles so you can monitor all of those bands at the same time. One that will have 2 outputs and one that will have 4 outputs, so you can connect 4 dongles and monitor your favorite HF band and maybe 6 meters, maybe 2 meters, maybe 440s, or maybe even 1296 on 4 different monitors. And if you can see when there's something interesting happening, and be able to either tune in or work them if you want to, if you got a transmitter, but you can at least see that they're on and listen to them and hear what's going on. So we're bringing a whole series of products for these SDR dongles.
Well, that's cool. There's been a lot of chatting in the chat room about the subject, the SDR dongle, and I think there's a lot of interest now in there. And there's appear to be a lot of people some people in here that weren't real familiar with this. So this is just great that people will learn another thing about the hobby, another aspect of it. And like you mentioned earlier, Boy, you can do so much with that SDR receiver. I mean, it goes up, like you said, into the gigahertz. You can listen to aircraft. You can track aircraft. And I don't know what all you can and can't do with it, but there's plenty to do. So, Martin, okay, let's change the subject a minute. And one of the things I've been wanting to talk to you about is, I've got your antenna analyzers, and I know that you can use them to measure. I think you can use them to measure distance of coax, loss in coax, and so forth. But I've never done that before. All I've used it for is SWR, and just recently I paid more attention to the reactance, the resistance and the reactance on there, whether it be capacitive or inductant. So I really, there's a lot that analyzer can do that I haven't never used it for, like grid dip oscillator and a coax loss calculator. Tell us some of the things that you can do, Martin.
Okay, well, I have thought about talking about two topics tonight on what you can do with the MFJ 259 and MFJ 269. I brought a piece of coax. This is just a, if you can see this piece of coax, I'm going to roll it up a little bit, but it took a ruler and I measured the length of, can you see that?
I can. So you measured it.
Okay, but I measured it, and I'm with a ruler, and it measures 9.125 feet. It's a 9-foot piece of coax. Well, with this coax, I can show you several things. One is, what if you had a piece of coax, not necessarily 9 feet long, but just a roll of coax that you have had in your basement or your garage that you bought like 17 years ago and never have used it. You don't know how long it is, and you don't know what the losses are, and you don't know if there's an open there or short there. Well, you can use, and I brought along one of our antenna analyzers, the MFJ 259 and MFJ 2. And if you notice, there's two band switch knobs on it that will allow you to cover frequencies from below the broadcast band, 530 megahertz, all the way up to the 400 megahertz band. It covers all those frequencies. But what I wanted to show you tonight was this piece of coax that I took a ruler to and measured it. I want to plug it into this 269, and there are probably more MFJ antenna analyzers, 259, 269, than all the other ones put together in the world that's being used now. But what I wanted to show you was two things. One was how to find if there was a short or if there was an open in the piece of coax. Let's say that you have an antenna that's connected through this piece of coax far away, and there's something wrong with it. I mean, the some birds have come out that has pecked on it and opened it up, or somehow it got a kink in it and there's a short in it. Well, this antenna will tell you where that is in terms of feet. If you have, say, a 200-foot piece of coax and there's a short at 173.2 feet, you can locate that short and open there and just replace that part of it. And it's a very easy thing to do. What you do is hold both of these buttons down until you go to the advanced 2 mode and find the distance to fault mode.
See, I haven't read the book.
Start.
Yeah, I didn't read the book. So you hold both buttons down at the same time, and you go to advanced mode. I guess that's in your documentation.
Yeah, you can download the manual from our website, but there's 2 buttons on it next to the meter on the right side that says gate and mode. Just hold both of those down, and you'll go from the main mode to advanced 1 mode, and then there's advanced 2 mode, and there's an advanced 3 mode. So you go to the advanced 2 mode and you find DTF. That stands for distance to fault. And the first thing that it asks is, what is the velocity factor? And then those 2 buttons, the top button allows you to increment up the number in velocity factor, and the one below that allows you to make it go down in velocity factor. And the velocity factor goes from 0, actually about 0.5, to about 1. So you can look up the velocity factor from the manufacturer if you know who made it. But if you don't know, you can measure, and I'll tell you how to do that in a few minutes. But the first thing you do is to put in the velocity factor. Lots of coax will have like 0.66 velocity factor. And this piece of coax, I'm going to show you how to do it. I measured, and it's 0.719. But most of it's like 0.66, 0.67. You put in the velocity factor. Okay. And then if there's an open or there's a short, you can find it. And the way that you find it is that you start at a low frequency and you tune the frequency until you see the X, which is on the LCD, that goes to 0. And then you see the impedance meter. There's 2 meters on this MFJ 259 and 269, and this meter that I'm pointing with my finger, let's see, that's the impedance meter there. You make that go to 0, plus the X on the LCD. You make that go to 0, and when you do, you press the gate button to accept that, okay? And then the next thing you do is to tune the frequency knob until X goes to 0 and the impedance meter goes to 0. Now, in between those 2 points, you'll find X will go to 0 and the impedance meter is still high. But that's the wrong point. You keep on tuning it until X goes to 0 on LCD and the impedance meter goes to 0. Okay, when that happens, then you push the gate button to accept that. Then all of a sudden, it tells you the distance in feet to that fault. And that fault can be an open or in short. That's where you have the problem with your coax. So it makes it so easy. You can do, you can take a row of coax that's been in your garage a lot, and you can tell how long that is by doing the same procedure, so that you'll know that it's long enough when you put your antenna up. The worst thing is you can put an antenna up and connect some coax to it, and then you find out to your ham shack where your radio is. Now, the other thing you can do is, we all buy coax when we go to a ham fest, and, someday we're going to use it. And that someday might be, like 20, 25 years later. Coax would deteriorate during that time. So you can use the MFJ 259 or the MFJ 269 to find out what the losses are. Well, if it's really, really old, it might have too much loss on 2 meters, but it might be perfectly good on 40 and 80 meters. So, I mean, that's a great thing to know.
Well, Martin, you're talking about the cable too short to go to the antenna. So, if a person has an antenna up and it's 125 feet away, and he's got a 100-foot piece of coax, he's going to put a barrel connector in it, and he's going to put another 25 feet on there. And, of course, that can go bad over time. Moisture, water, the connector, shorts out or opens. And by using the MFJ in that mode, you would actually, it would tell you that there's a problem at 100 feet, right where that connector is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you got a problem, that's probably the biggest problem in coax is when moisture get into it. If you're going to connect 2 pieces of coax using connectors like that, you need to wrap it up with tape or something to keep the water out of it.
Martin, when we were growing up in hams in the 60s, I don't know if this happened to you. I've said it before on a show. I had in the 60s, somebody gave me some coax, like RG8. It probably was pre-World War II, so it was probably made in 1930. But anyway, it was coax. And being 16 years old, you take what people give you. And, when you build a dipole, you really ought to waterproof that top, bend the coax over something, but I didn't do that. I just did a little Y connection to the dipole. And water was coming down my coax, and it was coming out the connector inside the ham shack. And, I never did anything about it. I mean, I still made contacts, but that's the way it was back then. And, that coax then, it wasn't a foam like a lot of foam you can get today or a lot of the new materials inside. This was that really hard, clear looking, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I think what the handbook said was, wherever the connector was or wherever it comes into your house, you put a little dip in it. So when water runs down, it would drip off and fall out before it comes back up.
Yeah, but Martin, mine was coming down the center of it like a pipe.
Ah.
Yeah.
And that made it hard.
Yeah, but, hey, here I am 50-something years later and still hamming.
Yeah.
But, yeah, go ahead.
The other thing I was going to tell you about was the velocity factor of coax. Now, in order to determine where there's a short or an open, you need to know what the velocity factor is. Now, the velocity factor is the ratio of the actual physical length of that piece of coax. Like this piece of coax that I was showing you here, that I measured with a ruler, and I measured it to be to be 9 feet 1 1/4 inch, something like that. It's not like 9.125 feet. It's the ratio of that piece physical length of coax and the actual electrical wavelength of that coax. Now that electrical wavelength is, you can use a formula in free space like 984 divided by the frequency, and that'll give you the electrical length. But you can use the MFJ 259 or the MFJ 269 to measure the electrical length of it. And you do that by the same way that you do for measuring the distance to the fault, except in this case, you set the velocity factor to 1. That's the largest velocity factor that you can have, which represents free space. So that gives you the electrical length of that piece of coax. And then you measure the actual length of that coax, and then you take the electrical length, which will be longer, and divide it into the length of the coax that you measure, and that gives you the velocity factor. In this case, I took that and measured the electrical length with the MFJ 259 and 269, and it showed at 7 megahertz, the electrical length was 11.5 feet. And then when I measured it with the ruler, the actual physical length was 9.125 feet. So I took 9.125 and divided it by the electrical length, which is 11.5 feet. And when I came up with the velocity factor was 0.719. And then I tested that to see if that was really true or not. So I measured the length of that piece of coax, and I entered the velocity factor as 0.719, which is what I calculated from measuring it. And it gave me a length of that coax as 9.1 feet.
Wow. So if you know how to work that thing, there's a lot more it will do. That's interesting. I'm gonna start trying to play with I'm gonna get that manual out and start learning to do a few new things with it.
Oh yeah, there was I don't know, several years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I was asked to speak at at Georgia Tech, and there were a whole bunch of clubs that came together, and I talked about how to do all these measurements, and I explained how to do that and how to cut dipoles and how to check balance, a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, Martin, there's some other things that'll do too. I mean, don't you sell some little coils that can plug in on the top, or maybe people could even make them to make this like a grid dip oscillator?
Well, you're absolutely right.
And
a grid dip oscillator, the original one was an oscillator, and the tank coil of the oscillator was an exposed coil. And what it did, as you tuned the oscillator, in other words, you turn a knob on the capacitor in this little box that had a meter in it, and originally it measured the grid current. And when you tuned it to a frequency, in other words, you took this coil that was external and you held it near a resonant circuit like a coil, and that coil in that resonant frequency would couple to this coil in the grid dip oscillator. And when you tune that oscillator in the grid dip meter to the coil that you were coupling to, that coil would absorb some energy, and it would cause the grid current of that tube to decrease, and you would see a little dip in the meter. And it was called a grid dip oscillator. And by doing that, you could determine the resonant frequency of that coil, because that dip in the meter occurred when the coil in that tuned circuit that you were coupling to started to take energy from the grid dip meter. Now, our 259 and 269 does something very similar to that. We have a set of coils that you can plug into 259 and 269 where you tune through the frequency. You can see a dip, and you can find the resonant frequency of that circuit. Well, there's all kind of uses for that. You can find the resonant frequency of traps. You can find frequencies where you might have a series resonant circuit that's sucking energy out of your antenna system, so you can't receive that frequency. You can tune LC circuits with it, so that set of coils as a dip meter that makes it into a dip meter is a very useful thing.
Well, you know, Martin, there's so many things now that we've learned that this stuff will do for us tonight. I think we learned a lot of interesting things with the SDR dongle and the antenna analyzer. We've got people in the chat room now talking about they're going to dig their manual out and read it now, and they're going to see it, see what all this thing will do.
Well, you know that manual's got a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is repeating some of that stuff that's in that manual.
Yeah. Well, and you know, when I listen, I don't hear everything the first time, so it's good to have that manual where I can open it up and I can go through the steps, and if it doesn't work, I can go back and read each step again and do it again. All right. Well, look, hey, Martin, we've talked a long time about it. I've got one more thing I wanted to show tonight. Martin, you remember my friend Walter in R3E. He came down to Starkville with me this last trip. And Walter built, Walter, he's a pilot of an A300. That's a pretty big job. And pretty sharp guy. But, he's never really soldered or built any electronic things before. So he attempted his first last week, and he learned to solder last week. And Martin, if you want to just stick around a couple minutes, I want to play a little 2-minute video with him here, and you can comment. You can comment about it. So this is Walter. This is Walter and his. Let's see. This is Walter and his kit. If I can find it, here we go right here. All right, everybody, stand by. Here we go.
Lab of the studio.
This is it, guys. We're at the W5KUB workbench, and today we've got Walter in R3E. I got that right, didn't I, Walter?
Absolutely.
And Walter has built his first kit. He's been wanting to do some soldering and built his first kit. And Walter, tell us what it is that you built here.
This is just the QRP guys, KD1 JV code trainer, I believe is what they call it. Just ordered it from the guys out in San Jose, and they sent that in. There's not a lot of parts to it, and even I could get it done.
Well, Walter brought this over. We put the battery in it, and we didn't hear anything. It didn't make any noise. But we looked at it. He did a great job soldering, and we found out that it was a speaker he had plugged into it. What they've done here, they use a little computer stereo type jack. And the cable that Walter had is a mono cable. See if I can show this right here somewhere. It's the mono cable, and it only has tip ring, and that was causing us some problems, and it wasn't working. So we plugged a little computer stereo speaker in there, and boy, it's working great. And what this thing will do, it'll send random letters of Morse code. Can you get it to send some random letters there, Walter?
Let's see what we can do here. If I can remember how to get it.
There we go. And the speed's adjustable from what, Walter?
What, 14 to 33 words per minute.
Okay. And it's pretty good.
On.
Okay, so the random code letters are working really well. It's good for training. And I put my Vibraplex. You guys see my Vibraplex key right here? This is a Chrome Vibraplex Deluxe. My parents bought that for me in 1964 when I got my novice license. So we've got it plugged in. Let's see how it works here. Sounds pretty good, and it works really good. Here works great. Works like a champ. You did a great job, Walter. All right. Sorry about the feedback there. I was trying to. That was a video file I was playing here, and Martin was not hearing the audio, so I was trying to feed it back to Martin with the microphone here, and the way I actually have it configured right now, it caused some feedback on the show here. But Martin, what do you think? He built his first kit and it worked. Didn't have any trouble.
Oh, I think that was wonderful. I couldn't hear any audio. What was the kit?
It was a little CW trainer. It's a CW trainer. It sends random CW letters to you, and you can also plug a key in. Like I plugged my Vibraplex key in and sent, and it sounded pretty good. It worked pretty good. It's not made to go on your radio to transmit or anything. It's just a trainer. I forget the person. It was in the video. K1 something makes that little trainer, and it was a great job. He did good.
Oh yeah, I mean, learning to solder is a great skill. Do all kind of stuff with that, and learning Morse code is, I mean, that's a greater skill. It takes a lot of effort, but when you get to a point where you learn the Morse code, and when I say learn, that means a lot of different things. There's lots of levels for learning, and it took me a long time to learn the Morse code. I had a regenerative receiver to receive Morse code on, and I had to leave my hand on the tuning knob because if I moved it, the frequency would change and I couldn't hear the Morse code anymore. But the level that I stayed at for a long time was as a translator. I mean, it would come into my ear and would come out my fingers. So I would hear a letter and it would translate it as like for an A. Did I becomes an A on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So I was like an invisible translator. But there's many people, and I'm trying to get to that point where it really becomes a language. For example, if somebody sends the word THE, which is da, did, they don't hear the dash and the 4 dots and the 1 dot, and they don't hear the letter T, the letter H, the letter E. What they hear is the entire word the. Just like when we're talking, we hear the word the. At that point, you become literal and you hear Morse code as a language. And, the new concept, the Youth Academy, the CW Academy, That's how they're teaching it. They're starting at 20 words a minute, and what you hear and recognize are, first of all, entire letters, not dots and dashes,
Right.
but letters. And then the next step, you hear whole words. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to a YouTube video that sends the 100 most commonly used words in the English language, and has helped me tremendously. You know, when you Google stuff, as you type a question or some information you want, it will start to predict what you are typing, what you want to know.
Right.
That's the same thing when you're listening to Morse code. You know, if somebody sends you a word like name, M-A-M-E, when you start to hear N-A, then your mind starts to predict, oh, it's going to be M-A, and you fill in the blank, M-E. So you just kind of already know what he's trying to send.
Yeah, and you know,
and that's how you become really fast.
And back when we were novices and working slow 5 words a minute, and plus you only had 1 year to upgrade to 13, or you lose your license. But contacts were pretty easy because it was always QTH is, and then he'd repeat it twice. You know, name is, and repeat it twice. And when he said name is, you knew what he was saying. Even if you just copied the N and the E, you knew he was saying name. But you're right. After you get a lot of practice, you'll start hearing words, and you don't have to write them down. Okay, well, Martin, it's getting a little late here. It's 9:30, and we had quite a show tonight. We had a lot going on here. I was going to show you. Hey, I got one more little clip. Let me show you, Martin. We'll talk about this some other time. Martin, you're not going to hear it, but you'll see it. So here we go.
Okay.
Okay. Well, hey, Walter, how long did it take us to build that?
Maybe half an hour.
30 minutes. 30 minutes. We've got a extended double zip built. Right there, we got the feed line on it, and we've got 5/8 wave on both sides. We've got insulators already on it. All we got to do now is hang it in a tree out there as soon as the weather gets nice. But there's what we're doing right there. So Martin, that's my extended double zip. I've got 138 feet, and extended double zip is 172 feet. So what I'm planning on doing is getting about 120 to 130 feet flat top, and then I'm gonna have to drop each end maybe 10 feet out there. Well, more than that, 15 to 20 feet on each end. But I think I can get 135 feet flat top, and then a little off the end. So that's the way it's going to have to go. It's not perfect, but already I've got the antenna up right now for 40 meters. Yeah, 172 feet. Martin, I pulled it up. I pulled the center up. It's been the weather's been really cold and bad, but I did pull the center up a couple days ago. I pulled it up to about 90 feet. I've got a rope over a limb about 90 feet. And the reason I know it's about 90 is because I had a brand new 100-foot roll of the 450 line. I cut 10 feet off the bottom. That's all I didn't use. So it's way up there. So, it's at about 90. So I'm hoping to get each end up to about 80 feet, 85 feet, 90 feet, somewhere near maybe 60 feet on one side. However I can get it through the tree limbs, I'm going to have to work around that. But right now it's kind of like an inverted V. The legs kind of, they go. The center's at 90 feet, and the legs kind of come down about 10 feet off the ground. So when the weather gets better, I'll get it up in the air. But it's working. It's working pretty good, actually.
That's pretty incredible to get it up to 90 feet. So do you have how are you feeding it? Are you feeding with ladder line or coax or what?
Yeah, it's ladder line all the way down to the MFJ 1.5 kilowatt auto tuner right there at the base, and then of course it's coax into the house. Now I noticed the tuner, it's just tuning it great on 160, it's tuning it on 80, it's tuning it on 40 to like 1-to-1, but I'm having terrible trouble. I'm just not getting the thing to tune on like 20 meters. I was hoping that, using a big antenna like on 20 might work, but obviously the impedances are so far off for something on 20 that the tuner doesn't want to tune it when I start getting up to 20 meters and 10 meters.
Well, you can change that impedance a little bit by adding a little bit more ladder line to it.
Yep.
And that'll get into the range where the tuner will tune it.
Yeah.
As you go on a transmission line, the SWR will stay the same, except for the losses, but pretty much just the same. What changes is the impedance.
Right.
And if you just add a little bit more ladder line to it, you can probably get it to within the range of that antenna tuner.
Well, I'll work on that, and I'll try that later. Well, like I said, the weather needs to get better. Someone asked in the chat room, isn't that an NVIS antenna, near vertical? Actually, it's, well, I guess it is if it's low. If it's down near the ground, 10, 20 feet, it becomes near vertical. But when you get it up in the air, 60, 70, 80, 90 feet, it's got nice lobes off the side. Is that how you see it, Martin?
Yeah, I do. That's pretty incredible that you can get it up 90 feet. Most of us regular hams can't get anywhere near 90 feet. If we can get it up to like 20 feet, we can get up to 30 feet. I mean, we're doing unbelievable. I mean, you're getting it up to 90 feet. That's pretty incredible.
Martin, I've got some really, really big trees around my house. They're really big. And when the wind blows, I don't go outside because I'll have limbs falling that are 4 inches diameter. I mean, you get killed out there in the yard. But, Martin, hey, it's been great tonight. It's 9:38. I'm going to try to open up Hangout just for anybody that wants to join on Hangout. I'm not going to stay long, but man, I great show tonight. I really appreciate you being on, and we're going to have to try to do this every week or every 2 weeks, however often you can make it. But we really appreciate you joining the members of the show here and being a part of the show. So thank you very much.
Oh, I had a great time, and anybody who wants to ask a question, I'm just always happy to answer any of them, and anyone who wants to come and see how we make stuff, they're always welcome. We'll roll the red carpet out for them.
And you always do. That's great. And hey, I'm going to come back down here probably in another month or so and visit with you. But it's my turn to buy dinner this time. You keep buying it for me. But guys, Martin is so hospitable when you go down there. These guys have a lot of work to do. But I tell you, you go down there as a ham, you walk in the front door unannounced, and they will stop what they're doing, and they will give you a personal tour of all the facilities there. Great, Martin. Thank you so much. 73 Martin, go to bed. And, oh, man, hey, another night we will open the phone lines and just let people call in and talk. Maybe we'll just have a talk night.
Okay.
We'll have a talk
that sounds
night.
Great.
Yeah, let's do that. Martin, 73. See you later. Thank you so much.
See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Okay, guys. That was, of course, Martin F. Jew, the founder of MFJ, and great guy. Couldn't ask for a nicer guy. And they've got some products down there. If you get a chance to go down there, I've spent a lot of time in each of the different companies, the Meritron, the High Gains, the MFJ. Wow, they do a lot. Thousands and thousands of products, and it's all made in the U.S. It's ham, It's not real expensive gear. And I think that's one of the reasons that just about every ham shack in the world probably has a piece of MFJ equipment in it, and they've got distributors and dealers around the world. I'm going to bring up Hangout. Let's see if anybody is in Hangout, and we'll stand by there for a minute and see what's going on. I know it's getting late, so just take me a second to get it. While we're waiting, let me do something here. Communicate with the best. Communicating has never been so much fun than with ICOM. From D-Star to SDR, ICOM uses the most advanced technology in their radios. The SDR you've asked for is here. ICOM's new 7610 is a high-performance RMDR with the ability to pick out the faintest of signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The new ICOM IC7610 is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. It has an independent dual receiver with 110 dB RMDR. Communicate with a new D-Star communications device. Easy to operate, the ID31A Plus is available in silver, red, or gold. With it, you have worldwide digital communications. You can share pictures and text messages. It's waterproof, compact, lightweight, and tough. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios. All right, and we're back. And hey, we got a few people to hang out here. Let's see who we got in here. Okay, I think that'll probably do it right there. Yeah. Oh man, look at there. Look at there, boy. I love the, I don't know, what do you call it? Headset with all the different. You actually look like a devil there, Douglas, with the headset on. All right. Well, hey guys, and hang out. Was the audio okay tonight? I went to headphones. I started to get some feedback.
Yeah, I heard you just fine, Tom.
Yeah,
Martin broke up a little bit.
Martin did. We had an internet issue, and Martin kind of crackled a couple times.
But you know what? I don't think we
I'm guessing it's weather related.
Yeah. Well, what were you going to say, Jeff?
I don't think we missed anything. I think.
Yeah. The thing about
but I don't think we missed any words.
the thing about it, when the internet would pause like that, you know, a second or two later it'd come back up and it'd pick up right with the same next word, you know. So it
Exactly.
worked
That's
all
what I
right.
was trying to say.
Yeah.
Well, I was fooling around with this tonight, the 100-foot roll of coax, trying to figure out what he was doing. I got to read that now.
Oh man. Oh. Let's see if I can get my picture on here somehow.
I got this brand new roll of
Here we go.
100-foot coax, and I'm just like, I want to see this say 100 feet.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, hey, get the manual out because I don't remember how you did it. You hold the two buttons down, it does something. You go to code number 3 or something, and then you do something, and then
I got in there, but I
yeah, and then you turn these two knobs to 0, and then you press the gate button, and man, you got to be. I don't know what you got to be, man. You need the instructions in front of you.
you need to be an FJ employee or engineer.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not going to hang out. I got to go to bed. It's getting late.
All right, I know you're usually out of here. I appreciate you sticking around that long to come in, but I think it was a good show tonight with
That was excellent.
Martin.
I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah.
Great job, Tom.
All right. Well, we never know. We never really know what we're going to do next week until next week. You know. So if you guys got ideas, send them to us.
All right. 7-3, guys.
All right. 73. Mark Pupo, KE8HIW. I think I never can get Mark's call right. He said, guest audio much better tonight. Yep, it was.
Hey, Roy, what's up?
Hey, not doing too bad here. Just in my shack doing Raspberry Pi projects.
Wait, is that?
Cool.
Are you a drummer?
Yeah.
You
I got
are.
the drums kind of in the background there.
Well,
drums,
hey.
bass, and rhythm guitar too. Yeah.
Well, now, usually when we catch somebody on here that's a musician, we always have them play something for us. Now, if you're not prepared tonight to do it, we can do it next week. But put those drums out, or you get that guitar, and
I could do that. I could do that. I'd probably grab the guitar. But
grab the guitar. Grab the guitar if you want to.
I could certainly do that next week.
Okay, great. All right.
Hey, I looked for you on 40 a couple of days ago. This band was just and right at the end, I started hearing one of the stations.
Yeah.
And then he went off, so I was hoping I could get a relay or something. But anyway, I'm gonna keep trying. I'm way out here in Oregon, and it's 40, and it's middle of the afternoon and stuff. But one of these days, I'm gonna catch you guys.
Well, oh man, yeah. I've talked to California during that afternoon or something, but the conditions got to be right. And hey, well, maybe we just need to try some different bands. Maybe we need to try 20. Maybe we need to try 17.
No band is good right now. I've been hanging out on the YL system a lot.
None are real good right now. But
nobody's making any QSOs. Everybody's kind of doing their best just to check in, and you can't hardly hear any of them. And they got 5 net controls. So
yeah. Well, we really ought to try some different bands when we do the HF get together, because there are people that just can't make it on 40 meters. That's for sure. All right, Doug. Doug, what do you got there, Doug? What is it?
BNC patch cables.
BNC patch cables. You got a patch panel that they go on?
Yep.
What are you going to be patching?
Not yet, but
not yet.
I was thinking of using them between my DDS VFO and my QRP Pixie.
Okay, well, it might work, or you might build them both.
I did get my oscilloscope today.
Good. I saw you posted that. How you like it?
It's nice.
Cool.
I haven't tested it yet, but
cool. Oscilloscope.
At least I've got it.
It'll do a lot of neat things. I don't know what that was. Who was that? Hello, Uber.
I also had an ingrown toenail removed today.
Oh boy, we need Doc on here. Doc hadn't been on in a while. Well, hopefully they gave you a piece of leather or something to bite on when they took it off.
Nah, they numbed it up with the injections like they would at a tooth doctor.
Oh boy. All right, Mike up there in Uberland, man. How you doing? Yeah, your mic's not working. Yeah, your mic's not working. Mike's not working.
Mike, your mic is broken.
Yep, you guys see my mic's working.
Yeah, I hear Mark.
Yeah, it is Mark.
Yeah, we hear that. Oh, I saw somebody else come in here with a hat on. I don't know who that was. He came in and left real fast.
The weather must be playing havoc on people's internet connections.
Yeah, we had a lot of storms that come through here right about showtime. Let me put the weather radar up there. Let's see. We gotta click update there. Yeah, we had some good storms that came through, and at one point before the show,
we back now.
Yeah, at one point before the show, the lights even flickered on and off, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be an interesting night.
Yeah.
All right, I hear Mike. We hear Mike now. Yep.
I hear you now, Mike.
Okay, there's sometimes I just gotta refresh it, go out and come back in with this mic. I didn't get into see the show until last in by the time we got home here.
Okay.
But all I got was
I said, I think you posted all you were getting was a green screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you must have been tuned into Douglas's background there.
Yeah, that was during your regular program.
Yeah. I don't know.
When I booted up, and you were getting to the end. You were down in the last 10 minutes by the time I got in there. So
yeah.
It must be on my end here because all I could get was a solid green. I could hear you guys just fine.
Yeah. Something the combobulator didn't align properly or something there. Everybody, I think everybody else watched it and it seemed okay. So, yeah, our webcast has been I've been very happy with it since we moved to YouTube off of Ustream. We were on Ustream. We're always getting all kinds of buffering, and people couldn't get it, and commercials were coming on, and it was just the biggest mess. And it was I think a great decision to move over to YouTube. It has a lot of advantages.
Yep, that does work out going to YouTube. We use it when we stream our games at Friday Night Football.
Yeah, well, Mike, your mic's off again.
Yeah, I could go down to the bottom.
That's interesting, Mike.
Mike
you're
sounds like he's got a little bit of a connection.
Yeah, your audio was there, and it started getting real fuzzy, and then it went out. That didn't sound too much like internet.
Who was that? Fox Queen Victor's audio?
That was Mike.
Not Mark, Mike.
Mike, yeah. Don't hear you, Mike. Well, let's see.
The guy that I can't recall who it was. The guy that was talking about the coax.
That's Martin. That's Martin.
Apple earbuds on.
I don't know. That was Martin F. Jew. If you look at his initials, Martin F. Jew, that stands for MFJ. He's the founder of MFJ.
Okay. And they look almost like them Apple earbuds they have. Like $200.
It probably was. It probably was that. They're Bluetooth.
Up and
they were Bluetooth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they look like.
Welcome back, Mike.
It's been a few weeks.
Still no audio. I think his mic is going bad.
Yeah, go to the dime store and buy a new headset. That's why
Mike, you got a loose connection because a lot of static came in when you wiggled something. And, yeah, it's doing it now. And whatever you whatever you're touching is a bad connection.
Like sometime what the PA would do at school.
No, nothing now. Nothing like
years ago. We had one had tubes in it. We had a big console. We had tubes in it, and it would start making funny noises. Then it would quit. Yep. And they like, it won't do announcements today.
All right, look at here. Looks like it's gonna clear up here in a little while. I don't know. What time is it? That's 1 o'clock. There's 2 o'clock. There's 3 o'clock. Yeah. Well, we're gonna have it till 3 o'clock anyway.
But probably moving up to the Ohio River Valley. They're talking about West Virginia getting that, and in Central Ohio, down at New Philadelphia, about getting more snow than we are. They're gonna get south this time.
Yeah. Mark P. in the chat room. Yeah, we have Hangout names tonight. I've had them for a while. They were just disappeared for a while. I don't know what's going on.
I think Hangouts is changing their format or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. Well, okay. What time is it getting to be? 5 till 10 Central.
9:54 here.
Yeah, it's 10:54.
10:54 Eastern.
Eastern time. Yep. That means it's about time for a peanut butter sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Must agree with that.
All right. So, Roy. Yeah, Roy. You play in a band?
Yeah, I play in a local club band. We're not playing a lot right now, but the whole business has wound down quite a bit. And I also play in a church worship band, and they actually keep me pretty well challenged.
Oh, cool. So, what kind of music do you play, like in the honky tonk?
Oh, Portland is a real classic rock and blues town. So if you don't play a lot of blues and some classic rock, you probably don't.
Okay.
So we do a lot of both of those. Do a lot of ZZ Top.
Oh, okay, man.
In fact, I enjoy singing ZZ Top.
If you would, what's that? Best dressed man, or what was it? What is it?
Sharp dressed man.
Sharp dressed
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, if you had
And
your
then
big,
on-
if you had
on
your
one of the
white
nests
beard
the other day,
right
I actually
there.
worked a guy in LaGrange, Texas.
Did you?
That was pretty cool too.
Yeah. We had someone from West Monroe, Louisiana, on the other day. Of course, that's the home of Duck Dynasty, and I just watched one of the Duck Dynasty shows, I think last night, and Cy had ZZ Top on there singing, and they did the song, and Cy sung with them there. You know, I'm gonna try to get Cy.
Cool.
I'm gonna try to get Cy, or one of the guys. They're not hams, but I'm gonna try to get them on our show one night.
That'd be very
that
cool.
might
You
be-
get a
that-
lot of cool people on your show.
That might be cool if we can get them. I don't know. You know, heck,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'd have to get Cy. I think he could hold his ground. Get somebody like Willie or somebody. He wouldn't know what to talk about. But you know, hey, we could talk to Cy about, you know, hey, you know, Cy was in the military too. Probably about the time I was. Cy's got these stories where, you know, in Vietnam he said in Vietnam they could be driving down the road, you know, in a deuce and a half, and the Vietnamese would come up on a motorcycle beside them and steal a wheel off the truck while they're driving.
I believe it. You hear a lot of crazy stories and stuff like that.
Vehicle, make a three-wheel vehicle.
The what? No, I
Taking
do.
a one wheel off, making a three-wheel
Well,
vehicle.
a deuce and a half's got 8 wheels on the back and 2 on the front, but they could actually take a wheel off while I was driving, you know. But you know, Cy says that I think Cy says that, you know, 90% of all his stories are true. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh yeah, he could tell a story about the monkey driving the motorcycle. He got a good story
I'd
about.
probably believe it.
Yeah, he got a good story there, you know.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm just a drummer. What can I say?
Yeah, a drummer and a guitarist. Well, you play the drums in the band, basically.
I'd be a bass guitar player.
Bass is a lot of fun. That's my first instrument, and bass is really a lot of fun.
Well,
they're all fun.
Shouldn't a bass be easier to play? It doesn't only have like 4 strings.
Yeah. I kind of call it the Fisher Price guitar. You know, has those big fat 4 strings. You know, for people with big fat fingers. You know.
Yeah, and you know, I've got a guitar here, but I never played it. But you know, those wires, they might like cut my fingers if I try. I don't think I could ever, you know, hold those wires down on a fret, or whatever you call that.
Two things are key there. One, you build up calluses, and the other one, it just took me forever to learn, is don't press very hard.
Yeah.
Don't press. Very light, even, and very light touch, and that's what makes it, you know, sound better and everything. But it's easy to say, hard to learn.
Oh yeah. Now I can do pretty good with the Wii, man. You know, with with my guitar on the Wii. Well, I can play some songs on it, man.
Mm-hmm. I play the record player too.
Yeah.
My favorite type of music is like Rob Zombie and Led Zeppelin.
Hey, yeah, I like Zeppelin. Don't know Rob Zombie very well, but I like Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Well, the chat room has got really quiet tonight. I don't know if everybody's already gone or not.
No. Oh, chat room.
Yeah, chat room. It says it's 43 in here. That means there's probably really about 15 in there that are live, but not
I'm still in the IRC.
Not any activity going right there. Oh man. Well, all right, guys, can you help me with some ideas about the show next week. See, today's like Friday for me. We do the show, and then tomorrow's like Saturday and Sunday, man. You know, don't have to do anything. The show's over with. And then by Friday of next week, I got to have it lined up what we're going to do for the next one. And I don't know. Mark Pupo says they all went to sleep. Kurt's up there. Kurt's up in New Jersey, WA2JSG. Kurt's my buddy up there, and I see Kurt occasionally at Dayton. And he even came by here last year. He knocked on the door, and I opened it, and next thing I do, I saw him running, get in his car, and driving down the street. So I don't know. He never did come in. I don't know what happened, man. He has a daughter.
Kind of like a ding-dong bitch.
Yeah, he's got a daughter that lives here, and I thought at least he'd stay. But, gee, man, I must have scared him off, man, when I went to the door. Hey, Kurt is big in the Straight Key Century Club. And I think we had someone on here from the SKCC maybe a year or two ago. I just talked to one of their people in their Facebook group, and we're going to invite them back on the show here really soon. All right, what do you got there, Douglas? What is that?
My QRP Pixie.
Man,
banana clips.
Is that thing
so
made
I can attach a straight key to it.
That thing made a contact yet?
No.
Not yet?
But I do have a dummy load on it.
Getting close? Oh, well, I'm building I built two of the BITX 40s. And let me change cameras. I'm working on right now a Microbix right here. And this is a HF sideband CW 80 through 10, and it's got the Arduino.
At 8 o'clock tomorrow,
I know.
we're going to sit at the table. I want your side cleaned off. Don't do that to me, or I'll throw it all in the garbage.
Hey, man, are you yelling at me?
No.
You better watch it, man.
You
better watch it, man. You might get thrown out there yourself. All right, guys, it's after 10 o'clock here. I think I'm going to go ahead and get off and get me something to eat. And we will talk to you later. I'm going to run, and had a good time. Chat room, Katie 8. Oh, man, I can't see from here. Katie 8 DLL, maybe? Says 73. We got Jerry in there. Doug's in there, Mike's in there, Kurt's in there. Okay, 73, everybody. And we'll talk to you later. Oh, what was that, man? Is your headset on fire?
No, I'm vaping because I used to smoke tobacco.
Oh, man, let me tell you, man. Hey, there's a good video out where the guy's vapor thing went off in his pants. That was not fun, man. That was not fun. I've never seen somebody try to get his pants off that fast ever. And he couldn't get them off fast enough, I tell you. I tell you, he couldn't get them off fast enough for sure. Because when that battery in there, I don't know what kind of battery, but when it starts going off, man, there's no stopping to it. All right. Good night.
Cheap Chinese battery.
Yeah. Good night, guys. We'll see you later.
Yep.
All right. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us on the show tonight. If you're still around and you're still listening, we really appreciate you being here. Had a great time tonight. Let me go up to studio. Hey, here we are. We're back in Studio A right now if you're watching. And we again appreciate you stopping by and watching the show with us, being a part of the show tonight. So 73 to you, and we'll see you guys later.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.